Welcome to Hope is Here. Do you ever lose hope because there's just so much evil in the world? We're going to talk about that today. Jon Meyer is our guest. He is with a ministry organization here in Lexington, Kentucky called Radio Christi. We've been speaking with him all week on lots of great topics, from what is apologetics, about the church behaving badly. Just been a really great week of programs. We talked about the reliability of the Bible. So if you missed any of those, I want to encourage you to go to our website, hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today, and check those programs out. But, John, let's talk about that really hot topic. If God is all powerful and loves us, why do terrible things still happen to people?
Greg, I think this is one of the biggest questions that people have. In fact, I think there are a lot of challenges to Christianity out there. Most of them you can deal with in about 5 minutes. This is not one of them. I think this is one of the few issues that we really need to take some time and dig into. Now, you could teach classes for semesters on this, and we've got 15 minutes. So trying to deal with this all might seem like we're blitzing through it, but I'll try and talk to you about what I think are the most important aspects.
Give us some highlights of that. Yeah.
I think one of the big things that we can talk about is something called the free will defense. And that's essentially that most of the evil that happens in the world today, we can point to and show that it's done by people making bad moral choices. So everything from robbery and murder to just, not helping an old lady cross the street or something, whatever it is, it's most of the time because people have made a free choice not to do the right thing.
That free will thing is huge, and that's the thing that I've talked with a lot of people about. That is that, the great thing is that God wants a personal relationship with us, so He could treat us like robots and control everything we do, but that wouldn't be a real relationship. So, unfortunately, right. People, because of that free will, sometimes they make bad decisions.
Mm-hmm. It's true. So I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind, people ask, well, why did God give free will in the first place if He knew that it would go so wrong? Well, the thing is, like you said, He doesn't want robots, right? I can program my computer to tell me that I'm the greatest person in the world, but that doesn't, well, for one thing, I'm not, so that's problematic for that reason. But for another thing, I told it to say that, so it's meaningless, okay? Things like love. Love is a choice. Worshiping God is a choice. And if we want to choose to love someone like God, we have to have, it requires us to have the freedom. And in order to have freedom, we have to have a choice not to. There has to be a choice to do the wrong thing in order to be able to choose to do the right thing. So that choice is necessary. I say, what if you have a dog? If somebody says, I have a dog, I know my dog loves me because he's always no more than 6 feet away from me. And I say, well, yeah, you've got him on a 6-foot leash. Of course, he's not ever more than 6 feet away from you. The way to see if the dog really loves you is to take that leash off. Now, you risk that dog running away and never coming back. Or he could go chase that squirrel and come back at dinner time. Or he could just sit there and stay by you because he wants to. And that's what God wants. That's what we all want, right? We want someone to love us because they choose to.
That's a great example there. What about things like earthquakes and tornadoes? People say, why does God allow that?
Right. So this is different because that's not something a person has chosen to do, right? Earthquakes and tornadoes are not due to human free will choices, making bad moral choices. I think there's a couple different things we can say about this, though. God allows things to happen in order that a greater end result might come about. Think about the idea of immunizations. So a baby is taken into the doctor. The mother, the loving mother, takes the baby, sets them on the table, and then these strange people that the baby doesn't know comes in and jabs them with needles, and it burns, it hurts, and the baby doesn't understand. All the baby knows is this is painful, I'm crying, and mom is standing there watching it and doing nothing. Why? Why is mom doing nothing? In this sense, people ask, God is watching me suffer. Why is God allowing this to happen? He can stop it. He can put an end to it. The mother could stop the pain. The mother is allowing this because she knows that the end results are better, so that the child doesn't get tetanus later on and their jaw's locked shut. Okay? So it's exactly the opposite. It's not that the mother doesn't love the child. It's because the mother loves the child that she's allowing the child to go through that pain. Also, I think it's interesting that when people are going through issues and trials, these are a watershed issue. Evil is a watershed issue. It either will grow you closer to God, or you'll feel like you're drifting farther away from God. Nobody sort of stays where they're at when bad things happen.
Well, one of my favorite quotes, I quote Joyce Meyer, I heard it 20 years ago, John. It says, when bad things happen in our lives, you either become bitter or better. And, kind of the choice, the same thing you're talking about, either draw closer to God or further from God. Yet, I'll be honest, I've done both before, and yet when I've drawn closer to God, my relationship's gone to a deeper level. And I heard Pastor Rick Warren say many years ago that, God never wastes a hurt in our lives if we allow him to.
Yes, that is an important thing, because, again, here comes the free will idea again. You have to choose how you're going to view this and what you're going to do with it. So in Amos chapter 4, verse 6, God's talking to the people, and he says, "But I gave you also cleanness of teeth in all your cities, and lack of bread in all your places." And when he says cleanness of teeth, it doesn't mean they went to the dentist. It means they didn't have anything to eat. "Yet you have not returned to me, declares the Lord." See, he's trying to get their attention. And you say, well, God has better ways of getting my attention, right? I think it was C.S. Lewis that says that God whispers to us in our good things, but he basically yells at us in our pain, and like pain is his megaphone, right? He's trying to get our attention and turn us back toward him.
Let me ask you the question, John. Okay, so we know evil exists. We live in a fallen world. What do we do for those who are in the midst of suffering?
Yeah, so somebody walks up to you and says, "I just found out I have cancer," and you say, "Free will defense." Well, no, that's probably not going to be the best thing to do. These people are really hurting. And there are times for intellectual answers, and people legitimately do want intellectual answers. But I think that really addressing the emotional aspects of the problem of evil are the things that you really need to concentrate on in the moment, especially when you can see that someone is hurting. Now, often, especially if this is long-term, people they might hide their pain behind the intellectual question. And so you keep that in mind if someone's actually asking intellectual questions about the problem of evil. There may have been something really deeply emotionally hurtful in their past that's at the forefront of their mind while they're asking this intellectual question. But I think the important thing to do is to remind them of something that Jesus has gone through. Remember that Hebrews says that we have a high priest who's familiar with the things that we are going through. And I think that's important. Jesus came down here and he suffered in a lot of different ways. I mean, it looks more than likely that he lost his earthly father sometime during his life, which means he had to take care of his mother. He was rejected by his family, by his brothers. People tried to kill him on occasions. They said, "You're demon possessed." They said, "What are you doing with prostitutes? And why are you talking with these tax collectors?" And it was on and on and on. He had sufferings in his life. So I think picking out something and showing them that God really does care and God really does connect. Really, God can use any of this for his glory, and I think that's important. But dealing with that emotional connection, I'll give you an example. There's a church I was visiting, and a woman told me that she was dealing with her sister had been pregnant with twins and miscarried both of them. That's a difficult thing.
That's painful.
And I said to her, I don't know what you're going through, because I've not been in that situation, but I know someone who does. God knows. Say, how does God know? God watched his son die. The Father watched the Son die. God knows what it's like to lose a child. And it's important for people to remember that stuff. I think over and over again, we have to keep in mind that the loneliness that people feel sometimes. Jesus had all of his followers abandon him the night before he was crucified. He really felt alone. So, just all of these different things. Go through and think about the things that Jesus suffered through in his lifetime. And then, on top of that, everything he suffered on the cross. Physical pain, okay? Agonizing physical pain. Real bad, okay? But also keep in mind what came afterward. 3 days later, he got up. He's not there anymore. He's not held back by pain or evil. Not that God is held back by that anyway, but he doesn't, that doesn't have a grip on him anymore. And the promise that he has given us is that he will do the same for us. And that's what the next show is going to be all about, is the hope of resurrection.
Absolutely. And I think things you talked about, God never wastes a hurt. Romans 8:28 says all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And share with people also that, Jesus didn't start his ministry till he was 30. So, in 3 years he changed the world. But you can imagine the different things he went through in his life up until the age of 30. And like you said, probably without his father, because we don't hear about Joseph any, and during his childhood and things. So lots of good stuff here with Jon Meyer. He is with Radio Christi. To find out more about that information, go to their website, radiochristi.org. Jon has a ministry here in Lexington. We'll be telling you more about that tomorrow. So I hope you'll join us on Hope is Here.
CMI is your full-service human resources provider in Central Kentucky. For 15 years, CMI Human Resources has taken great pride in helping organizations and people work. Whether it's employee handbooks or help in filling a position, no job is too large or too small for CMI. Contact the professionals today at CMI Human Resources, 859-296-2800, or online at cmiconsulting.com.